Everyone for today's fiscal year 2026 Subcommittee Markup of the very first National Security Department of State and Related Programs Appropriations Bill. Let me start by thanking Chairman Cole for his essential leadership at the helm of the Appropriations Committee and for his wisdom in refocusing this subcommittee, starting by changing the name to better reflect the investments made on behalf of the American people, which are to advance the national security interests of the United States. I also want to thank Ranking Member Frankel, as well as Ranking Member DeLaura, and all the members of the subcommittee for your partnership in developing this important bill. The bill before us today delivers on President Trump's America First agenda. First and foremost, by drastically reducing spending, funding is cut by 22% from the enacted level. The greatest threat to our country's stability and security is our debt. And this bill dramatically but responsibly reins in spending. These cuts are in addition to the 6% cut achieved in the final enacted version of the fiscal year 24 State and Foreign Operations Act, which was carried forward in the CR. The bill prioritizes our national security, especially in the Western Hemisphere, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific. It provides unwavering support for Israel and fully funds the United States-Israel Memorandum of Understanding by providing $3.3 billion in security assistance to allow Israel to defend herself from existential threats. Other key partners and allies in the Middle East, such as Egypt and Jordan, are strongly supported. The bill includes funding and conditions to confront the national security threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party, including through a new provision that prohibits support for academic institutions partnering in STEM programs with PRC or the CCP-controlled colleges in Communist China, and continues to prohibit foreign assistance from being used to repay loans to the PRC. $500 million in foreign military financing is provided for Taiwan, and strong support is provided for other key partners in the Indo-Pacific, such as the Philippines and the Pacific Island countries. This bill continues important investments to combat the trafficking of fentanyl and the transnational criminal organizations behind the scourge of drug addiction confronting every community in America. The bill makes clear that those countries who are not willing to cooperate on issues of direct importance to Americans will be held accountable. The days of a weak American foreign policy are over. The bill cuts or withholds aid to countries that are no longer advancing shared interests, such as Colombia, due to the Petro administration's, frankly, abject failures in preventing political violence, creating economic deterioration, and emboldening transnational criminals. South Africa, unless they cease cooperation with our adversaries and uphold the rule of law. And Mexico, until they meet the requirements on the water deliveries to the United States in accordance with the terms of the 1944 Water Treaty. The bill also blocks assistance to anyone who supports, finances, or facilitates the operations of the Cuban Ministry of the Revolutionary Armed Forces or Ministry of the Interior. I'm very grateful that President Trump and Secretary Rubio used language I included in the fiscal year 2024 bill to sanction the anti-American thugs in the Cuban regime who work closely with America's adversaries. The bill upholds the United Nations and other international organizations accountable. The bill holds the UN and other international organizations accountable and brings greater scrutiny to the actions of member states, including their voting records at the United Nations in determining the allocation of funds. No funds are included for the United Nations regular budget, and funds are prohibited to the World Health Organization, the United Nations Commission of Inquiry Against Israel, the United Nations Relief and Work Agency, known as UNRWA, the United Nations Human Rights Council, the International Criminal Court, and the International Court of Justice. Furthermore, the bill includes a new provision that demands justice for victims murdered in the October 7th terrorist attack, including American citizens, by requiring full accountability for UNRWA staff involved in that vicious attack. These are just a few of the examples of what America First foreign policy looks like in this bill. But there's a lot more. The bill prohibits funds for controversial or ineffective programs that Americans don't support and our allies and partners don't need. The bill supports full implementation of key executive orders that reflect a clear commitment to the national sovereignty, the security of our borders, limited government, and American values, including those related to restoring free speech and ending censorship, ending DEI programs, and many others. The bill creates the America First Opportunity Fund, which will enhance United States leverage abroad and enable a rapid response to any potential crisis. It also creates the National Security Investment Program account, a new account that facilitates efficient strategic deployment of programs that support United States national security interests. Together, this prioritization, Mr. Chairman, there's my English barrier. You see that? That's right. Again, of resources ensures that our foreign policy is focused on making America safer, stronger, and more prosperous. Now, critically important, the bill maintains all longstanding pro-life provisions alongside enhanced oversight and transparency measures to ensure that American taxpayer dollars do not fund abortions, a policy that Americans overwhelmingly support. Let me now go back to the numbers, which I mentioned at the beginning. The bill is a 22% cut below the fiscal year 25 enacted level. We are laser focused on reining in years of out-of-control, wasteful spending that characterized the previous administration. Let's face it, it was no secret to any of us that the previous administration was funding controversial, wasteful programs, and even programs that were actually harmful to our national security. We debated those issues extensively during our markups. However, the previous administration continued funding these controversial projects, which lead to the American people losing faith in our foreign assistance. I put prohibitions in this bill to address these disgraceful activities and to try to reassure taxpayers that their money would be spent to defend our national security interests. Prohibitions on drug shows, DEI hiring, on funding CCP laboratories. Now, at the time, some of you might recall, those prohibitions in the previous bill were criticized. Now it seems that we all agree that they should have never been there in the first place. Throughout this process, the goal is to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, represent our constituents' priorities in foreign assistance, and above all, to protect United States national security. This bill would not be what it is without the valuable input from each member of this subcommittee. Your thoughtful recommendations really have shaped the measure before you, and I am grateful for your contributions. Now, before I close, I also want to thank the staff on both sides of the aisle for their hard work. They have worked weekends, day, night. They have not stopped working, and we can never thank them enough. I would now like to recognize my friend